Hello, everyone. We are in main session right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
All the breakout sessions has been ended.
2 minutes in case anyone wants to take 2 minutes just to have some water, have a bio break. Just take 2-3 minutes and come back. We'll wait.
Can get started, Arthur.
Get started. Okay.
Right.
Just checking whether all the moderators are back. Professor Subimal, Ghosh, Professor Manasa, Behera, and Professor Shankar. All three of them are there. So, yeah, I can see.
Yeah, I'm here, Shankar. I'm here, Manas.
All right. So, thank you for coming back to the main session. I hope you all had an interesting session. I mostly was in session C on sea level rise, but I also managed to catch a little bit of the other two sessions on residential and workplace cooling and coastal flooding. And I could see that there was a clear combination of different kinds of papers and presentations, as well as the very interesting questions. So one was general or generic kind of questions, both in terms of understanding the impacts of climate change, but also in terms of what do we need to do in terms of developing adaptation, mitigation, resilience strategies. And secondly, there were, of course, the very focused and technical discussions related both in terms of linking climate change to specific kinds of hazards and risks, and also in terms of identifying the risks for specific kinds of sectors or specific kinds of geographical regions. So I would first like to request each of the moderators to report back from each of the sessions about the significant topics, themes, or questions that were raised. Please take about 3-4 minutes each. You can take 5 minutes if you wish. And then I'll summarize, and then we'll request Dr. Tim Potts and Professor Milind to briefly talk about the way forward from this workshop. So, can I request Professor Shankar to start first from session A?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. So, thanks for the opportunity to be part of this workshop, and I've been learning and also a very interesting session that I was part of. So we had three main topics, broader topics. One was on how to utilize liquefied natural gas in various segments so that the energy efficiency can be improved and so that the cooling and Masaki, he had discussed a number of ideas about how to use liquefied LNG essentially for various sectors like chillers, how to improve performance of chiller power input. So all these different aspects of liquefied LNG as a source for power production, cooling, etc. were discussed. And then we had a talk from an architecture perspective by Dr. Atrey. And he laid out some of the ideas from a climate change perspective, what are the main aspects that an architect will look into, and where are the opportunities, and how do we address them? And he has proposed a model of 4M. And actually those covered, uh, especially for a country like India, where the number of built up space is going up on a very dramatic scale, that you have to measure the magnitude, modules, and measure and monitor and so on. So we had discussed how to obtain energy savings from an architecture perspective. And finally, we had a talk on data center by Matthew Taylor. And he had put a realistic picture on what climate change will do to the existing data centers. Typically, data centers are designed for 20 years. However, these changes are happening at a rapid rate. So, how do we address them, and where are the low-hanging fruits where people have addressed, and how is the industry proactively building a climate change perspective? So good discussion on the various aspects of residential workplace cooling was discussed in that session, and I thank the speakers again, and with that I'll wind up my quick summary.
Thank you very much. Session B on flooding. Professor Subimal, Ghosh.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Parthasarathy. We had a nice session on urban and coastal flooding. Of course, we have three talks, and they were slightly different topics. And the first two were more on the adaptation to flooding, more on the adaptation side, and also on the damage and risk side. And the third one more on the climate change mitigation in cement industries. So the first talk was given by Professor Shankar, where he has highlighted that for urban and riverine floods, what is the importance of risk, why do you need to consider vulnerability, hazard, and exposure, why all these three components are really important in computing the climate risk. And also he has demonstrated how can we really develop these risk maps. And specifically, this kind of risk maps are really very useful for any kind of evacuation planning and any kind of structural or non-structural measures. The next talk was given by Dr. Carola Query. She highlighted the fluvial floods, specifically both kind of floods, the rural floods as well as the urban floods. And she has also highlighted how warming is actually intensifying the flooding situation as well as the damage. And also she highlighted the need of designing adaptation strategies like evacuation and other things, so that they can be properly mitigated, or we can adapt to intensified flood scenarios due to climate change. And third talk was given by Mr. Tomo Aoki, but this was a slightly different topic, which is more on the mitigation side and more on technology development for climate mitigation, where Mr. Tomo has shown in what way the municipal waste and other waste can be used in the cement industries, and in what way we can actually reduce the GHG emissions that is coming from the cement industries. And he also suggested that more pilot studies on such technologies, on such developed technologies are needed, maybe possibly in India also, so that we can work towards more sustainable development or sustainable technology development. So that's all from our session, and I thank all the speakers for nice presentations and all the participants for a nice question and answer session and discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh. Last but not the least, Professor Ranjan Behera.
Thank you, Professor Parthasarathy. Just a quick note, the department mentioned under my name is civil engineering, not mechanical engineering. Yeah, so we had a nice session and excellent talks by all three speakers. With the first speaker, Professor Dr. Tom, also talked on a topic that is rising seas, the engineering challenge, and he actually touched upon all the way from the global temperature rise to sea ice melting and the sea ice volumes in land as well as ocean, and he related that to the sea level rise. And he also got out various aspects of mean global sea levels by different bodies, how it has been predicted and projected, and highlighted the importance of extreme rainfall, sea level rise, and storm surge combined effects to evaluate the coastal zone vulnerabilities. And he actually explained details on the adaptations and options for adaptations, and finally the effect on the coastal and inland infrastructures due to such events. Then the next talk was by Professor Mori, and his talk was on projection of extreme sea levels and its application to coastal adaptation in Japan. Well, although it was focused on the case studies of Japan, but it is well applicable to any coastal city or coastal location around the globe. And he has highlighted the long time scale processes like sea level rise and the short time scale extreme events like storm surge, and the associated storm waves. So the combined effect of sea level rise, dynamic sea surface height, storm surge, and wave run-ups needs to be considered when we actually look at the coastal zone vulnerabilities. And he has also highlighted that we need to talk about or consider the land movement or the land subsidence when we are talking about this coastal vulnerability. He has also highlighted the future challenges and the global climate scales, how the parameters can be, how the variables can be downscaled from global climate scale to regional climate scales with robust models, and the storm surge predictions and adaptation strategies for this coastal flooding was also highlighted in his discussion. And the third talk was by Sri Deshpande. Then in his talk on sea level rise and risk for coastal cities, a case study for Mumbai metropolitan region, he highlighted various administrative and governance aspects, talking about the national plan as well as state level action plans, and he has highlighted the effects of different extreme events like storm surge, flooding, tides, and the coastline changes that are actually affecting the Mumbai metropolitan regions, and he has highlighted various cities along the pan-India region which are actually vulnerable and how they are affected, and what are the measures that are being taken to reduce the CO2 levels directly or indirectly, like the metro that is being planned, how it is going to really help in reducing the CO2 was also highlighted. And he has highlighted various local bodies, local governing bodies who are actually working on various rivers that are present in Mumbai and how different measures are being taken. So overall, I would summarize that all three talks were kind of coherent, talking about the effect of sea level rise and how we can calculate the extreme sea levels or extreme flooding along the coastal zone that are due to the sea level and associated events, and what are the different methods or options for adaptation. So overall, I would conclude that there is a huge scope to bring all the technical expertise that are available from UK, Japan, as well as India, and the governing bodies or the government organizations to come together and overcome various issues like the coastal flooding or the effect of sea level rise and adaptation strategies. So with this, I would like to thank all the speakers and participants of the session who were really active and discussed all the questions and topics. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Behera. Thanks to all the three moderators for excellent summarizing and reporting back. I will not attempt to repeat what they have done. I will instead raise a few points just in the next few minutes in terms of identifying the issues and themes which we can take up going forward, and especially how we can collaboratively and since we as the conveners of this workshop, plan to have something similar every year and involving government, academic, and industry partners. We started out today with the first plenary speaker, Professor John Dora, talking about adaptation standards, the importance of standards, and how these need to be linked to adaptation pathway approaches, irrespective of which sector or geographical region we are talking about. And he talked about how the way in which the thinking, the research, the paradigms, the frameworks of adaptation standards have evolved over the last few years. There is a lot of focus on training, on capacity building, comprehensive in terms of focusing on all sectors, adaptable. These frameworks are adaptable enough to provide us tailored solutions, and they are not linear but iterative in the way in which they can be utilized for designing actual strategies in different geographical regions for different sectors. Then Yajima-san linked the issue of technologies for cooling in workplace and in residences to the larger issue of social development, which is primarily the reason why we are all talking about climate resilience, that especially in countries like India where there is so much of inequality, marginalization, people are not able to meet their basic needs. How to link these to issue of social development is very important, and I was very happy that Yajima-san spoke not just about cooling in terms of its need for people working or in their houses, but for transportation, for food storage. It has so many different uses that are very important for the economy at large and for development at large. And that brings forward significant challenges, as he mentioned, and it also requires significant legal regulations to reduce the levels of risk that he mentioned. And I also like the way in which he spoke about unacceptable risk, but safety, which we normally think about when we talk about risk in different ways. It's not simply about damage, but safety is freedom from unacceptable risk. I think this is a very unique and insightful way of understanding risk, and it pushes us to think about sustainability and resilience and adaptation pathways in very interesting ways. Then Professor Majumdar's, I would just like to draw upon one of his contributions in his talk, the lessons that we can learn for how important knowledge and research are for developing good adaptation strategies and resilience strategies. So one of the things that he mentioned was the importance of high resolution data sets and the need to integrate these into hydrological models so that we can generate risk scenarios for better adaptation and for better flood reduction measures. So by identifying the different factors that can contribute to the intensity and magnitude of floods, using this kind of knowledge approach, this kind of model, I think we can help policymakers as well as industries to come up with better strategies. So we also in some of the discussions talked about the fact that the models are very dynamic. We are in a context of climate change where there is a lot of uncertainty, the difficulty of attributing events to climate change. All of these create difficulties for generating standards, for developing regulations, and for designing adaptation policies. And this becomes even more complicated if we think not of vulnerability and risk in a general way, but in a much more specific way. So, in the Indian context, Mr. Deshpande mentioned, for example, the importance of focusing on livelihoods, because there are millions of people whose livelihoods are going to be affected, who live in coastal areas, very densely populated coastal areas. These are small-scale livelihoods. So, in the informal sector, so the whole policy approach is politics of addressing these kinds of infrastructure on which the poor and the marginalized depend on. Therefore, while mitigation is definitely something that we should get into, and it's in the long term, it's possibly the major solution that will impact in the reduction of hazards. As Tim mentioned in his the breakout session, adaptation to sea level rise is something that we can avoid. So the importance of adaptation, the importance of focusing on architecture and urban planning as part of designing solutions, the need to think about technology in very new ways, complexity of solutions, and the need to come up with new regulations, especially in the area of standards. All of these emerged from the different plenary and paper sessions. And the final 2 points that I'd like to end with this: the importance of knowledge and research to contribute to better policy making for adaptive pathways approaches. This is where government, academia, and industry can come together, and the need to create new standards. So again, focusing specifically on the Mumbai metropolitan region, Mr. Deshpande referred to John Ghosh's, Mr. Professor Majumdar's talk earlier on about the problem of non-stationarity, that a lot of urban planners are not able to make the infrastructure more resilient because they find that the data, historical data, is no longer very useful for them. Therefore, the importance of knowledge, not just in general for adaptation strategies, but to come up with better standards. So I think I'll stop here. There are a lot of interesting issues that have come up. We'll prepare a summary, those of us who've been part of the core group, and share it with all the participants. And then we'll think of ways in which we can extend this network and bring about new collaborations to address these issues in future years. I'll now request Professor Atrey to take over and give us summary.
Right. Right. Thank you very much, Parthasarathy. You summed it very nicely, and also the moderators summed it so nicely that it was not so much. I thought that I would not miss so much on other sessions. Of course, the details will be available by recording, and one can always go through recording to understand what happened in other breakout sessions. And whichever you attended, of course, you have them. Very glad that what we thought team and myself during our Japanese trip and to have such kind of a discussion. Although I know that this topic is too big. The topic of climate resilience is not something that possibly could be understood or can be thought about in just 3 hours to come. But at least, we could have at the beginning of bringing so many participants together. And I'm very happy with the students, for the PhD and postdoc students, that they could actually listen to such a good lecture by various operators in the field. So it's a very big topic, but it can possibly go in depth, and maybe a one-day workshop or 2-day workshop that we had thought about them, and in a physical event possibly could be. Nevertheless, it was fantastic having this plenary session as well as having this breakout session, parallel session was a wonderful idea. And luckily, we didn't have any problem with the internet issues or audio, video or something, or one or two friends possibly. So I thought very importantly what Partha you said is having industry, academia and government officials or the policymakers coming together is the key requirement in climate resilience. It can't be done by any of the activities because knowledge, research plus implementation has to happen, for which policy decisions have to be taken. So government has to step in. But more importantly, it's very important that we could actually see who are working in what area. So actually, you don't have to really reinvent the wheel many times. But I could understand what is happening in UK, for example, on data center. At the same time, I could understand something related to coastal study. But then the idea that also came into mind that why not when Manasa and Matthew presented, why can't we have a marriage between the LNG cooling and the data center cooling, which possibly we had just thought about. It's a wonderful idea, and I've already sent a message to Manasa that can we collaborate on such matter. And I think these are the outcomes of such 3 hours meeting, and I'm sure if the students or PhD students can present some papers, possibly we can have more paper presentation by our students as well, talking on their research topic. And how do we go forward on this is basically to first have collaboration between the different groups, maybe a formal collaboration. As a Dean R&D, I'm very keen that such collaborations can be possibly brought about. But unless and until the people come together, the collaborations have no meaning. So MOU, we signed 100 MOUs almost, but out of which 2 or 3 only are active. So if you want, I'm sure IMechE can actually bring these people together, IMechE India, IMechE UK, and we can actually bring people together and see, and also give a thought about how the funding could be given to such projects. So I'll request Subimal, Ghosh, who is the head of IDP, to possibly take it ahead and see a formal collaboration possibly can result of the workshop. And maybe we can have a PhD guidance by either side, and I'm sure team can help us on the UK side. The universities are playing an important UK side, and our students also can possibly spend some time here and some time at our professor and possibly co-guide us to be one of the professors. Right, so I will not take more time because we are running 15 minutes late, and therefore I would request now. So my idea is only to have more formal session, maybe one day workshop, maybe physical event. Maybe we can have a meeting once in India, UK, and Japan in alternate year, and that could possibly send some photo. But very importantly, we have to have the researchers, that is the knowledge, the industry, and the policymakers coming together all the time. I don't think we have so much representation this time from Indian government as such, but we should strive to have those collaborators together also, because ultimately it is government who will actually bring out the standards and implement it. Thank you very much, Krishnan. I request Dr. Prof to give it.
Well, thank you, Professor Atrey, and thank you very much for such a good summary from our various moderators and Dr. Partha. I'll keep my comments very, very brief because I'm conscious that we are nearly out of time and it will be good to finish on time. So I just want to say a couple of things very briefly. One, I think that we have proven that that the vision that both Milind and myself and Abina-san had when we got together in Japan is something worthwhile, and that we have realized today the first step on a journey towards what could become, I think, a cornerstone in the adaptation events agenda. And I think this strength of this collaboration between the UK, India, and Japan is really founded in the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, where the institution has always traditionally had a very strong ability to bring together and convene groups from across government, academia, and industry to tackle major challenges facing society. And I think that unique ability to bring those groups together can result in very fertile discussions and very meaningful and tangible outcomes. And I hope that today we've laid the foundations for a future in which adaptation across our three geographies and three areas of sectoral interest in terms of government, academia, and industry, it can be regularly brought together, regularly convened to discuss this really important topic, because adaptation is absolutely key to the well-being of human society within the rest of this century and into the next century and beyond. Climate change is absolutely inevitable now, regardless of what we do to reduce emissions, and we need to raise adaptation up the agenda. And I think today we've seen that there's an enormous amount of good work going on across our three geographies, and that we could leverage that together to get a much better outcome for society. So I've been really, really excited to see the good work that's going on in our geographies today and across our domains, and I really look forward to helping to take this initiative forward in the future. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. I think we call upon Sunil now to make the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Team, and have a very good evening and good afternoon all. It was really a great pleasure to have this event organized by Dr. Milind, Dr. Team Fox, and Ibn-san from Japan. It's very difficult to gather speakers and attendees from all three places and make this kind of an event possible. So thank you for organizing such a great event.
At the same time, I want to thank Professor Dr. Subimal Ghosh and also Professor Parthasarathy from IIT Bombay for making all the arrangements and sharing the students as well as the resources to make this kind of event happen. I would like to thank plenary top speakers, Professor Dr. John Dora from UK, Mr. R. Yajima from Daikin, Japan, and Dr. P.P. Muzumdar, Professor ISC Bangalore, India, for their guided talks and setting the pace of this kind of an event and guiding all of us in the right direction. Also, big thanks to all the three speakers for the sessions. Again, Abhina Masaki-san, Dr. Profil Garpure, Mr. Matthew Hoffner, Professor Dr. Shankar Karmakar, Dr. Corolla Koini, Mr. Tomo Oki, Dr. Tim Fox again, Professor Dr. Nobuhito Itomori from Japan, and Mr. Shankar Deshpande from MMRDA, India. And I wish to thank again Dr. Shankar Krishnan, who is with us again. He was also with us for one talk at IMechE session a few days back. And also Mr. Subimal Ghosh again for moderating the session along with Mr. Professor Dr. Manasa Ranjan Behera. To make such an event possible, a lot of correspondence, making the things, requires a lot of resources and the time of the volunteers. So I would like to thank especially our session co-host and organizers, Prem Tripathi, Bhumika Tundia, Ananya Lakshmanan, Rishabh Sharma, Archie Smita Banerjee, Shiva Sekharan, Siniakar, and last but I would like to make a special mention for Ms. Devasmita Muzumdar for putting very many great efforts and making this event possible. So thank you all once again, all the participants, all those who appeared, who spared their time on the weekend and make this event successful. Thank you all. With this, Sunil, Panchbhai, myself signing off, along with my co-convener, Dr. Parthasarathy. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
I would like to request all our speakers, moderators, to turn on your camera so that we can take a screenshot. Since we are not in a physical mode, so we'll take a screenshot as a DSLR. Ajismita ma'am?
Yeah.
Can you still put it on screen? People seem to have internet issues, I think.
Shiba, ma'am, are we able to take the screenshot?
Yeah, I took one.
Still waiting for everybody's picture to appear.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Next meeting we'll definitely have a party after the event.
Yes, certainly. One on us.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.